Ever felt like you're too young to lead? That people don't take you seriously just because of your age?
If you've ever been the youngest in the room and still had to take charge, you are not alone. It's not going to be the first time. Hello, everybody. My name is Francis, and welcome to BizNest.
And my name is Penny. Today we're talking about, does age matter? How to lead when you're the youngest in the team. We're going to be talking about, how to build your confidence, how to gain respect, and how to prove your leadership no matter your age. We'll cover the challenges that young leaders face, how to overcome age bias, as well as how to build your confidence, even if you're the youngest in the team.
And as always, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode of BizNest.
So, Francis, does age matter?
Hey! Does age matter? Of course. I mean, I don't want to go to I don't want to go to jail.
Francis, I knew it. That's why the subject line has to have, a supporting statement
Disclaimers,
on it.
notifications.
We're just gonna go into the gutter if it didn't
Yes.
have its supporting statement. But let me ask you this first: have you ever managed someone who's older than you? What?
Yes. Sorry, I always
The simple
started from
answer
the
is
gutter,
yes.
now at the top. That's always my life story. But yes, have I ever needed to manage somebody who is younger, who's older than me? Yes. So just the reason why this resonates so much with me is because back then in the early years of 2004, 2006, 2007,
In the early
2007,
years.
2000. But some of our guys haven't even
In the
been born yet.
prehistoric era.
Yeah, I think
Go ahead, say.
well, the concept is not new. I found myself in that position where I
Yeah.
was somewhere around 24, 25, 26, somewhere there.
Mm.
So I became, lead trainer or subject matter
Mm.
expert. So I know that uh, within our team, I had a lot of people who are older than us, me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in a training background, when you have a class, you get all sorts of people, right? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, there was bright young thing, and then you're in charge. you're in
Bright
charge.
youngun.
You're in charge of a class, and some of them are like,
Mm.
because the call center, like I said, earth shaking industry. It was bringing in people from all sorts. It was bringing in
Yeah.
people who are, uh, you know, previous bank supervisors, for example,
Mm-hmm.
previous businessmen whose life has sort of turned around. I
Mm-hmm.
know the most interesting thing I had, um, a granddaughter grandmother tandem.
Okay.
They were hired and they were starting in the same
Same
class, so
batch.
in
Okay.
the same batch. Yes, I remember that because they were like abesamis, and then the other one's also abesamis, and then they're like, they kind of look the same. So I had all sorts of ages, right? And I know
Mm-hmm.
that I have been challenged multiple times simply because I was telling them you should be like this, you should be like this, and they
Mm-hmm.
had this like, I know better than you, old,
Yeah.
not old, older people or people of a certain age, and it's understandable when you work your way to the top, and at the time, when you do that, you have age as your weapon apart from your skills. So it's like
Yeah.
one of those weapons are being directly challenged, right? So yes, there are struggles when you are a young leader. So um in your case, have you experienced? Are you are?
Yeah.
You
Like
are.
like I
Yeah.
think I think we both have had experience, managing people who are of a certain age. I'm trying to be very, very sensitive.
Yeah, I mean,
No, who
I
are
mean,
older
people
than
who are
us.
people older
Yeah.
than us, yes.
I don't specifically. I haven't specifically experienced, someone questioning me, and it's probably because when they joined the team, I was already like the head person in charge. So it's not like they were my peers first before, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. And then of course, I mean, with you, like
Yes.
No, but yeah, let me go back.
Well,
Yes,
I
I
am
haven't.
older than you, and you find ways that
Yes, you
me, ano, you find
are.
ways to manage me.
No, like but I think it's for me, I haven't like experienced that age gap that someone is trying to manage me even though I'm the one in charge. In any of our
Wait,
teams. Maybe in a different setup, not in the workplace, like organizations outside of our company or
yeah, you know how
yeah.
organizations are. Like if it's, I wouldn't say informal. What do you call it? Like I'm not talking about charitable organizations, non-profit and NGOs, or just
Mm,
informal groups like uh, uh you know like Rotary, etc.
yeah.
There'll always be somebody who tries to establish dominance through age.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Because like,
Or
oh, I'm the mommy of the group.
but then I don't mind that. I really don't mind that.
We don't mind
But
it. We don't mind it.
yeah.
But we mind it when age is the only thing that they have working for them.
Yes.
That's
True.
not that's not what it's nice if you can naturally align towards a leader who has both wisdom, respect, blah blah blah
Mm,
blah. So let's say wait, let me align this in terms of challenges. Like if you're a young person, what would an older person, more mature person. Somebody edit this. I feel like I'm digging myself deeper into a grave. But would do to would find us challenging
yeah.
for you.
For a young. Yeah, I think because they are older, they do try to put their experience over you. Like
Mm.
I've done this before, and yeah, that
I've
I
been
would
doing
know
this for
more
so
about
many
you.
years.
Yeah, so they wouldn't believe any new thing that a young leader would wanna probably do.
So yes, I feel like that's a challenge since time immemorial. Age rarely bows down to beauty. um, I've been doing this forever, but upstart,
Hmm.
yes. So
Yeah.
yes, and that is this, and that is another challenge and a struggle itself. It's like gaining the respect of the entire group. So
Mm.
gaining the
Yeah.
respect of the entire group is hard enough when you are your own peers. I feel like it's
Yes.
harder. I feel like it's harder when
If you're trying to
even
gain.
the respect of somebody who is more
Yes.
senior. I think
Like
we've
it's like what does this person even know? I've been doing this for longer than them, right? I've experienced all of these things even
mm,
before they were here, right? Like even if sometimes even before they were born, but or maybe even before they were in college. Okay,
there has been
but yeah,
there
but
has been.
I think sometimes that does happen, and that's why young leaders do struggle in gaining respect. It's because at the other side of things, at the other side, that's what they're thinking. I have more experience. Who are you to lead me? And so
Yes.
that's where the struggle comes in. So I understand what you mean by there's also some sort of insecurity that could come into play
Yeah.
in that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, going back, uh, especially in the job market in various
Mm.
points in various points in time, job security is never really that been that stable
Mm-hmm.
across multiple markets, US, even here in
Mm-hmm.
the Philippines, even in the EU, that everybody feels like they're replaceable, right? So you really try to find something to but anyway, having said that, uh one more challenge, maybe faced directly by you as somebody who is a young person, especially if you're new. Sometimes you find yourself in a position where what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Uh,
Why am I in this position?
what,
They might find out
what?
that I'm not actually equipped to be a leader.
Yeah.
Like and I feel like I've gone through that, like the imposter syndrome thing. Like as much as I know I've accomplished a lot of things, there's always that
Hmm.
thing at the back of my head saying that, okay, is this actually enough? to say, to
Am I enough to lead
garner,
the
I
group?
guess. Yeah, yeah, it happens. And it's also, I think, really, it's also about because you want to be doing more. And
Hmm.
so, because you want to be doing more, sometimes you feel like what you're doing now isn't enough. I think it also comes from that.
There is that.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like sometimes some people are thrust into positions of authority or leadership without them being sufficiently prepared for it. Like
Mm-hmm. That's true
some people
too.
in fact go to the necessary education to prepare them as leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Business school, uh, management courses.
Yeah.
Say this is how you manage people. Whereas some people start from technical skills and then
Mm-hmm.
gain enough technical skills and seniority that they qualify for a management position. But sometimes, very unfortunately for them, they are not prepared enough for
Mm-hmm.
uh for that role because
Management. Yeah, that's true.
yeah, management is rarely given as a prerequisite role, in a technical skill like
Yeah.
customer service, the common thing. So in
Mm-hmm.
the Philippines, you have, you start off call center agent, you perform your 2 years top agent, and then yay, promote you as TL. Who the heck told you that you can be a team lead just because you're a top performer? They're not,
Yeah.
they're not correlated.
There's
They're,
a lack
so
in skill set when it comes to there's a difference in skill set when it comes to technical skills versus being a
yes,
manager.
you
And in
realize you're
that
no longer
mhm.
doing the thing that you're good at.
Yeah, yeah, because now as a manager you're trying to manage people instead, and again,
Mm-hmm.
accomplishing goals through your team. And sometimes because you're thrust into that position, you now are struggling to balance between being authoritative to
Mm-hmm.
your team versus being liked, especially if all of you came from the same boat or the same.
Started as
Yeah,
peers,
yeah,
but
started as peers,
started at
because
the
as
bottom. Now
peers,
you're still a
yeah.
bottom. No, no, you start. No, you started from the bottom. You started from the bottom along with the rest of the people in the
Mhm.
barrel, and then all of a sudden you're team lead. They know all of your secrets.
Yeah. Yeah,
They
yeah.
know what you did
Because
last. They know
because
what
if
you did
you're
last
if you're
summer.
because of your peers, most of the time your focus is, be a team player. So it's more of,
Hmm.
hey, we're friends
You
and things like that. But
banter. Yeah,
yeah,
you
but
keep things
once
from
you're
management.
yes, too. You talk
Mm-hmm.
about the boss,
Talk
things like
about
that.
the
But once
boss.
once you're thrust into that leadership role as a team leader, as a, or as something else, right? Now you have to have authority over everyone. And sometimes there
Mm-hmm.
is going to be resentment from the team members about either they feel like they're the ones who should have been, in
Promoted.
that TL position, or they immediately cut you off as a friend because you are now a team lead. It's now going to
Yeah.
be a very different relationship.
Yeah.
So it is a struggle to be a young leader, especially to have that trajectory or to have that journey to being a leader.
Yeah. To be fair, I think that's very, very common why when somebody's promoted, they don't put you in charge of the same team. Sometimes if the
Oh,
organization is large enough, they transfer you
that's
to
it.
a different team because that's true. Familiarity breeds. It's kind of hard to. So if like even if they don't say I should have been team lead, there's more like why him is
Yeah,
the
that's
is
yeah,
is
most
the
of the time.
challenge. And sometimes even
Yeah.
if they do accept that he is more qualified than the others, it's kind of hard to take that person uh seriously, you know. Uh but yes, so age, and then especially if that in that peer group he's not just uh the most qualified but also happens to be younger, again
Yeah.
breeds certain resentment. But again, we go
Yeah.
back. We've always said, even before this episode, that leadership skills in general, or the overall worth and qualification of somebody. But in this
Mhm.
context, leadership should be more about uh, you know uh, what really matters, which is skill,
Mhm.
skill set, leadership skills,
Yeah.
all of the technical skills that come along with the role.
Yeah.
Age was never a deciding factor. Again, as long as hopefully you're old enough to drive, to work. Yes. But
Yeah.
other
I
than
think
that, so
yeah, I think
yeah,
I've
go.
said this before as well, that it's like, for example, when we hire, right? Even if someone tells us that you've had 10 years of experience in the BPO but never advanced, right? Never advanced, like you were in never advanced in your role, versus someone who's been in the role for like 2 years but then was promoted SME or team lead, like there's advancement in the career. I would rather look at that person because of the quality, or at least their experience within those 2 years. So it's not really the amount of years of
Hmm.
experience for me, but what they've done in those years is what
barring
matters.
barring extenuating circumstances, because I remember I
Mm.
had a friend before, literally in the batches. It's not even the cohort, it's the whole batch of people that was hired.
Okay.
Everybody else was like already promoted, already doing something else. Call center really fast paced.
Yeah.
If you're an older batch, you can expect that a lot of your teammates have already attempted to apply as team leads and such. 10 years didn't want to apply, but it has to do more with, I want to be able to put down. I mean, she was great. They've been
Hmm.
trying to promote her for years. She just didn't
Okay.
want to,
So that's
because
a different story
it's
altogether.
a, it's
If
a different
someone,
story.
yeah,
It's different when you can't get promoted versus you're steadfastly refusing uh
yeah, because some
to
people would
be.
rather be agents, especially in the sales side, because you get commissions versus
You
some,
get
a team lead.
commissions.
Yeah.
You don't take home the work.
Mm-hmm. True.
There's still certain advantages if you're not, if you're not in it for the rat race. So
Yeah.
yes, so we've already uh you know talked about whether years does it matter, and to be honest, years is about age, and I think you've mentioned at some point that wisdom isn't about gaining years. You said something that I really like hearing every time. Like, people age, it doesn't necessarily mean that you get
Smarter.
wiser.
Yeah.
So,
Or you
you
get
pa-
more mature.
or get more mature.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
age, you just age. You don't. Whether you gain wisdom along with aging is it's not.
Yeah, so it's sometimes it has to be a deliberate action to actually gain wisdom. Like, I was thinking about this
Yes.
earlier. I was like, okay, so I've been doing like public speaking and everything, like, and that
Mm-hmm.
forces me to look into the stories that I have in my history, like the stories, my experience, and what stories I can pull from those. And sometimes I feel like I can't pull a story for a specific speaking engagement just because I haven't sat down and really thought about all of the experience that I have. And just to connect that with wisdom, the only way that you can get wisdom is if you really think about what you're experiencing and process it, and figure out what lessons you can get from it, or what
Yeah.
wins you can get
What do
from
I
it.
take from this experience? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because if you don't do that, it's just going to be day in, day out. Whatever's happening, that's what's happening. It's this, you're just gonna be a robot. So in terms of age and leadership, as I said earlier, you may be years in. Make sure that you're making the most out of everything in your work, so that you can be an expert in it. So even if you're
Yes.
young and you're an expert on what you're doing, no one can question you
Yeah.
once you know well, not
Oh,
everything, because it's impossible to know everything, but at least you have expertise.
it is impossible to know everything, but you know how the cream rises to the top is,
Mm-hmm.
between one person who's really good at following the orders and somebody who's like, sometimes, especially if you're younger, you're more
Mm-hmm.
willing to challenge authority, challenge the norm.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, that's can just be foolhardiness disguising as, challenging the norm. Whereas some people who are not satisfied with status quo but challenge the norm, but also learn from that
Yeah.
experience. I think I can liken it to not actual examples, but um phrases that denote that this has happened time and time again. You know, when people say he acts looks or acts wiser beyond his years,
Yeah.
or there's a wisdom beyond their years, or when they say he acts so mature, right?
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, where does the maturity come from? Like I said, some people, you maybe you have a minimum number of age before maturity can be, normally, like like a
Like
normal
you
on
start
the normal
thinking about that.
course. Yes, but to be honest, some people aren't allowed that time. Some people had to force themselves to grow
Yeah. To
older beyond their
mature.
years, like, to mature. Sometimes when kids experience, like death in the family, they're
Yeah.
forced to reckon they're forced to reckon things that they shouldn't have been on, normally shouldn't have been exposed to yet, or when they're experiencing, children in poverty. Maybe look at the, where you see poverty, especially in children, you'll see maturity well beyond their years,
Yeah.
because these
So
people
I
had to grow
mean,
up and grow up really fast.
yeah. So I mean, just in connection to what our topic is today, like those people who were like forced to kind of grow up, right? And it doesn't matter what age it is, but usually it's harder for the younger ones to like grow up faster, supposedly because of what they're going through. I mean,
Hmm.
when it comes to leadership, that type, like being able to be emotionally mature, is part of
Hmm.
leadership. Emotional
Yes.
intelligence is part of leadership. And we're talking
Yes.
about, looking at your experience, learning from your experience, and things like that. All of those is part of, knowing yourself. And emotional intelligence, a big part of it is self mastery and, knowing yourself, knowing what triggers you, all of those things, so that you know how to react and respond to people, so that you know how
Yes.
to understand people. And that's a very, very, very big part of being a
It
leader.
is a very
It's
big part. I mean, I 100% agree, and not to mention that life is literally 90% how you react to
yeah,
situations, right? So it's both
yes,
situational awareness, knowing that, when you step into a leadership role, let's just say, even if the role is, you know, um, if it's voluntary, like,
mm,
for a festival, a parade, an event, or the smallest project, like, this is a project put together, who wants to be a leader. When you step into a leadership position, you let go of who you are and take on the mantle of leader, right? I mean, of
yeah,
course, it's wearing you, so it has your personality, but you're not like, oh, but I'm young. You ask yourself, what does it take for me to lead this group? So it has, there's sometimes you have it and sometimes you don't. So sometimes it's hard to tell somebody unless they already experience, because some people feel like they're ready for the role,
mm,
but then they realize exactly what is needed for the role, and it's either they're not there. But like any other life experience, it either forces you to grow up and understand that this is a position that I can go into, or not.
mm,
And then you
yeah,
realize that maybe I need to learn more in order to become a leader. But sometimes it's easier to talk about what makes strong leaders. What's harder is when do you realize that you have the potential
to
for
become,
leadership.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
I
yes.
I think in
So
my, yeah, just to share before we hop on to like the last one, this like in terms of decisiveness and vision, I think um when I was younger, you know that my story is I didn't really set out to be a leader, or nor did I set out to be like an action. Like, of course, we try those little businesses on the side, right? But like
yes.
when we were teammates, right? Like you were the one who had to push me to be the to be the team lead for the team. Like I
Yes.
understand what you were saying about sometimes you don't even know what your potential is. So it does help if you have someone in your corner to say that, and sometimes someone in that corner has to be as persuasive as Francis. Um, no, but yeah,
Eh,
because I keep thinking like the potential thing about, yes, you are young, and sometimes you put in a ceiling for your own self, like a self ceiling. because you don't
Yes,
know
like
what your
not
potential
yet.
is, and someone else,
Yeah.
yeah, sees it. But yeah. Anyway, so apart from that, like leadership, what else does matter in leadership? Being decisive and having actually a
Vision.
vision. Yeah,
Yeah,
a
having a
vision. It's
vision, like and a soul stone. Um, you it's never about I've been doing this for a long time. It's
yeah,
always how do I face today? How do I
yeah.
lead the team today? And then
Mm-hmm.
what steps do I take to take the team? That's what great leaders are praised. No, it doesn't matter if it's entry level management,
Mm-hmm.
middle management, or senior level management. It's always going to be about what the vision is going to be. It I suppose it used to be when you have short-sighted leaders,
Mm-hmm.
they fizzle into they fizzle into the unknown. But
Mm-hmm.
today's corporate trainings, I don't know if it exposes leaders who are lacking. I mean, you can't all be 100% strong performers or leaders. Otherwise, you're just
Mm-hmm.
all leaders. But I suppose what I'm saying here is that the potential in yourself to actually hold on to it. When I say the all of the corporate trainees, they all teach you, smart 1 year plan, 5 year plan,
Mm-hmm.
short term and long term goals. So even if you weren't thinking that, now you're like, oh yeah, I have to think about it. Where I'm going with this is that a lot of leaders nowadays are actually trained to become great leaders. It used to be that
Mm-hmm.
naturally great leaders just float to the top and the rest fizzle down into the annals of history. But even that
Mm-hmm.
even now, with all of these materials available and saying how do
Mm-hmm.
you become a great leader, one thing that for me will always stand out is the natural born leadership, the natural ability to have a vision and say I will take this team
Mm-hmm.
and make it the best team there is.
Yeah.
I think that's
Plus,
something that you cannot exactly, you kind of have to be born with that sort of leadership skill.
I think I'm just gonna hop onto that. Like all the leadership training, none of these leadership modules or training says you have to be a certain age to be a leader.
That
None
is
of them.
true. That is
None of
true.
them.
That is
Right. So I
it just
mean,
says congratulations, you've been promoted.
right? Like none of them even say like, oh, okay. I have seen some training materials on how to manage up or how to manage, much more seasoned people than you, right? But again, I'll go back to what management or leadership means. It's being able to accomplish goals through people. So even if you do not have the experience as other people would say, since you're a leader, you're able to actually utilize the entire team to be able to attain your vision or attain your goals. So that's really what leadership is. Um, doesn't matter what age you are, as long as you're able to influence people and gather people around for all of you to do a specific goal.
Mhm. Remember that thought earlier where
Mm-hmm.
you said uh balancing likability and authority,
Authority,
like
yeah.
balancing authority and likability. I also keep saying management is the worst position to be in any corporation. The moment, so when you're rank and file, when you're rank
Mm-hmm.
and file, you're accountable to your team lead. Of course, your team lead, and then your manager, and then your manager's manager, and your manager's manager, depending
Mm-hmm.
on how big the organization is. You might have multiple leaders on top of you, but you're really only directly responsible for one person. I mean, to one person, right? You're only ever directly accountable to one person. However, when you start reaching supervisory and middle management, you become accountable to so many people, right? And it's not just the
Yes.
people that you're directly accountable to. Who directly reports to you.
Mm-hmm.
You're also accountable to people who are managing you. So now you have people
Yes, you're in
managing you while
middle.
you're managing people, and it
Mm-hmm.
becomes this like uh sometimes I feel like it's a chaotic
Managing
world of,
everyone.
yeah, you
That's why
now have to
emotional
manage
intelligence is very,
everyone.
very important. Yeah.
Yes, it's like it's I don't know, being a parent. You have one person coming at you on this side and other people coming at you on that side. And because you're also management, you're directly in the line of sight of senior
Mm-hmm.
directors. And I thought, just to add one of these things, you're earning the you're earning the respect of the people who are directly reporting to you. But in order to earn the respect of people who are above you, yes, actions will always speak louder than
Yes.
words, but management is a political jungle wherein
Mm-hmm.
you need I say you need somebody to have your back
Mm-hmm.
always.
Yeah.
In which I
Yeah.
say, if I'm going to add something to to what we've been talking about, you and you're a leader, you find yourself a good mentor, you find yourself a good it doesn't have to be your manager.
Yeah.
Ideally it would be your manager, but find yourself a mentor. If there's a mentorship
Yes.
program that's available, you go take that mentorship program,
Yeah.
because who knows, it might even give you an opportunity to have somebody who is higher than your direct reporting, and make your manager accountable to something. I don't know how
Yeah.
it
I
works in
think
other programs.
in terms of mentoring, right? Like I think it doesn't have to be one specific mentor. Because before
Mm-hmm.
I was always thinking about, okay, you know how we always like I always tell you about, maybe it's time to get an executive coach or something like that, right? Just to, it's either to make us accountable, or are we
Mm.
actually doing what we need to do? It's like those things. But I think that kind of evolved for me in the sense that a mentor doesn't have to be just one mentor. Like
Yep.
you, Francis, can be my mentor on creative problem sorry, creative problem solving, because I know that you do that best. And someone else,
Yes.
maybe I would say one of her friends, which an agency owner, um, can be my mentor in terms of putting in structure in the team. Like it doesn't have
Mm.
to be just one person to be a mentor for you. You can tap different people, different friends to be
Yeah.
your go-to person to give you tips on how to do things.
Yeah. I mean, if you're doing this, if you're sometimes the perfect leader isn't one person, right? It's like
Yeah.
one person for charisma, one person for uniqueness, one person for nerve and talent. No,
Charisma. Sure.
yes, but some people you admire because of their
Yeah.
leadership. Some people you admire because of the the personality that they ooze. Some people, the sharp wit, humor. Oh my God!
Hmm.
So what you do? Yes, exactly. You take this, and and I always say that this person is my idol. I personally use, oh, idol. This is my idol when it comes to public
Yeah.
speaking. I usually do this and that. um that's really taking those bits and pieces of mentorship that you want from other people. It doesn't matter that somebody can be like, have shit personality, but still, when he's right, and it doesn't, it
Yeah.
still bears taking that piece of knowledge grudgingly, but sure, take it. um but you know what you do, you take a mood board, and put all of the people that you admire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except it probably will make you look like a serial killer, like just mapping them all out.
Yes. And it has to be candid shots. Like maybe get it from their Facebook. Now you're gonna look like a stalker. And we have
Yeah.
that mood board. But
I
moving on,
admire a
like
lot of people.
yeah,
I,
same.
I admire a lot of people. That much is true. Like when I see somebody, maybe whether consciously or unconsciously, I really do try to see like what makes him so likable. Stalker.
But I mean, I mean, it's also part of it, right? We were saying earlier about emotional intelligence, and the willingness to really learn about people and understand people is part of leadership, right? And that
Hmm.
also, like, for you to gain the respect and to lead with confidence and overcome the age bias thing, you would have to build relationships. So one part we've already talked about, having mentors, but you also have to build relationships with your team. It doesn't mean an actual relationship. Please take your head out of the gutter. Like, but a relationship so that you know what their strengths are, what motivates them, right? So that again, you can
Yes.
accomplish your vision or your goal. So that's really part of it, as much as
Not
but
they're not
it
just
doesn't mean,
cogs.
it doesn't, yeah, they're not just, yeah, that's true too, but it doesn't mean that, you know, you build relationships with them just so they like you,
Yeah.
right? You are a leader, you are a manager. There will be times that they may not like you based on the decisions, but what your role is to make them understand why this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, we're not here to be friends. It's better if we are friends,
Yeah.
but you didn't have to be friends to have. But it also doesn't mean that you have to hate each other. You know, like
No.
civility is like the great middle ground to
And you know,
likability,
that's
sure,
very hard for young leaders to accept, that,
because they want to be like.
yeah, because I mean, a part of what a part of what the young leader might think is, I need to belong, and how can I belong if my team does not like me? So okay, let's
Yeah,
just do what the team wants instead of,
yeah,
you know, it's a big part of it. But and I think the way to go about this is to make sure that you're displaying your expertise, that
well, you have to show
displaying your
up.
expertise. Wait, hold on. You're displaying
Okay.
you're displaying your expertise, but always open to get the feedback from your team.
Yes, the 360 sort of feedback. No, I think
Yeah.
I understand exactly what you're saying. You know how I love these, like, I call them blackisms. I really will get canceled for this, but the strongest things that resonate with me, like Dr.
Mm.
Bailey. No, you show up.
Yeah.
You show up, and then you show them up. It's the best way for, it's basically so saying, I don't know, you turn up, you do your best, at
Yes.
any point. If you want people to even gain your respect, they have to see that you are worthy of respect. Sometimes that's
Hmm.
hard, but that's what the game calls for. And I also just I got reminded of something because you were on the roll earlier. Like, they're not just cogs. You agreed. It's like, they're not just cogs in the machine. They're cogs with feelings. I don't I don't know why I wanted to insert that so bad.
And you just had to insert it.
Of
Then
course,
again,
just had
that's
to.
what's making this like really light, right? So you did say that, like, show up, right? Prove that you know what you're doing, or at least you are making the right decision, and your decision is the right direction for the team, right? You
Yes.
also have to lead by example. And sometimes, I will say that this pressure is a little bit higher for young leaders, and it's because of all the struggles that we were talking about earlier, right? So when we say lead by example, be there on time, right? Sometimes even be there earlier than the other people, right? Not like an hour earlier, but just be there earlier. Know your stuff, know everything. Make sure that, what do you call this? Sorry. Be there on time. At least have an understanding of all of the rules that you have in the team, or at least in the company. Like, be able to lead by example, because no one will follow you if you're the first person who's like, if you're always tardy, if you're always not on time, and you're telling people, okay, I'm gonna take your attendance, and you're late today. Like, it's very hard to respect someone if
Yeah.
they don't lead by example.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard enough. It's hard enough to say, do as I say, not as I do.
Hmm.
As a parent, sometimes they can get away with that. Parents are, it's one example of, of leadership, but when you're in a, say, in a work environment, in a group, it's kind of hard to say, guys, improve your attendance. Like you said, when you yourself can't do that, right? It's not. And ultimately, whether you say it or not, influence your team, right? And I've
Mm-hmm.
seen some examples of this. Like, for example, I know of a team where the leader doesn't necessarily have to say, in this hybrid setup, doesn't necessarily have to say, guys, let's come in uh 2 or 3 times a week, right? He does, and therefore his team does. Not all the time, all of them, but there's a certain cadence that has happened. Another leader that goes, guys, you have to come into the office to, to the office, to the office 3 times, 3 times.
Every single like sorry, I'm just gonna segue a little bit here, but every single time you say skills, I can't like you have to
Skill,
repeat it in my
skill.
head, yeah, in the skills,
Gosh, you
like
have to have
the
skills,
Filipino
damn
accent.
it.
Okay, going back. Sorry.
Well, we're Filipino. We're always gonna have that. And the thing I really want to have my tooth fixed because it's really affecting my spits.
Anyway, go. Sorry, you were saying.
I forgot which one. Wait. Oh yeah,
No,
do as I say, not
no.
as I do. And then you also have this one leader who's like, nope, I'm not going to the office. And basically, you have their whole team rejoicing, like, he doesn't. So
I think
why would
the
we?
last thing that you wanna do is to use your position. Like what you're
Mm,
saying,
mm,
right?
mm,
Like
mm,
use
mm.
your position. I'm the team lead. I don't actually have to go to the office, but you guys have
But
to,
you guys have to. No, no, no,
right?
no, 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 no. No, definitely not.
Not
But yes,
yeah.
that's the biggest nope. Like
Mm,
uh, you know, there's so many tropes about the typical manager, like The Office, Parks and Recreation. Where you have a manager who's trying to be, but when BS is BS, and
mm,
it's not gonna make you a good leader to pretend to be one when you're not actually one. But anyway, I think we've beaten this horse enough. As much
one
as I
last
enjoy
thing.
talking about this topic,
Yeah.
yes,
No, one last thing
you do your last thing.
is yeah, one last thing that I would tell people so that you can earn their respect and you can build your confidence is just to keep on learning. When you catch yourself saying, I know everything, there's nothing else to learn
Mm.
about this, right? Like, um, you're not reading books, you're not looking, you're not getting the feedback from your team. If you catch yourself thinking like that, and it's because, hey, kaya nga ako TL eh. Like, hey, because that's why I'm a manager. I already know everything. Please, please go
That's
back
all.
to the
You're on your
basics.
way. You're on your way out the door. Maybe
Yeah,
you're
you're
not
on
on
your
your
way
way
out
out
the
the door.
door. You're gonna stagnate. Like, when
Stagnate.
yeah, before we were talking about like parking. Do you remember that term before that we were talking about? Like, you're gonna park there and you're not gonna move anymore, and that's gonna affect your
Yes.
team. So
You're
please,
gonna sit your ass down in a corner and just be that when you've started parking yourself because this is where
mm,
you're comfortable at. And again, sometimes maybe that's not the worst thing. Maybe where you parked is the perfect spot. It's got shade. It's got shade, there's no rain, but you're okay to not move there and rot there and you're okay with it? Sure. Uh, uh
yeah,
in terms of leadership, but as long as, as long as you don't think that it's my right to be parked here, no.
mm,
Technically no. But don't you just love using analogies? Right. So, very, very interesting thoughts as always. I feel like we're never gonna stop if we just keep engaging one topic after another. But I would love to move on and bring you, Penny, to what's your take?
okay. So today's question: do you think age matters in leadership? Why or why not, Francis?
That is your take because I think I, we've we've discussed this well enough before this. But I will say again,
Mm,
does age matter in leadership? The answer is a resounding no. I think where you know individual people would naturally take to leadership, naturally equate leadership with age,
mm-hmm.
and a lot of people will say, "Ha, I have earned my position. I've worked for it. Great, but I am the oldest here. It should be me." No, and why it doesn't matter is because when you put 5 people together and you say, I am the most qualified, nobody is going to say, he is the most qualified because he has the highest age. It will always be, he can do the job better. Doesn't matter. And I think in reality, the world understands this. You go back to the greatest parody of life and art. Telenovelas would K-dramas would always celebrate young leaders or youngest chairman or chaebol of the this and that family. It's true, but will there be people, and people are in fact enamored by people who are young achievers, right? Whether in
Yeah.
art and industry. So does it matter in business? No. We do admire and respect young leaders, and not to mention that no, not to mention, will there be haters? Yes, there will be haters, because there will be people who's again position leadership skills that they have based on their age would feel threatened by it, but the rest of the world, sure. um what's your take?
Ditto. That's my take. Ditto. No, yeah, I think you said that very well. I think you covered all of it, and I am like, I'm on the same side as you. Age does not matter. What matters is what your expertise that you're an expert and you're able to manage yourself as well as people. I think that's what matters in leadership. So, what about you guys? Let us know in the comments and send us a DM about this, what your answer is about this question. Do you think age matters in leadership? Why or why not? Please send us your thoughts.
Yeah. Thank you. Send us your thoughts. We'd love to hear your take. And then, if you don't mind, just before I wrap things up, I suppose it's worth it to, as somebody who has both been there, is there,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe will experience it some more. If you it's not unusual, I suppose, if you started out as a young leader, that you will be a young leader in several stages of your life. You will age. Okay, damn, you will age. At some point, you will grow old too.
everyone, everyone is
Everyone
gonna
grows up.
age.
Yeah, and hopefully at this point, because sometimes it may be uh leadership at a young age can also sort of breed arrogance. Mind you,
Mm,
that will be your downfall.
mm-hmm.
Just like beauty. Beauty will fade. Dumb is forever. But humility, coupled with the leadership skills that we were discussing earlier, just don't let it get to your head. At some point,
Yeah.
somebody will also arrive, maybe just as capable, just as persistent, just as skilled, who will also be younger, and you were like,
Mm,
don't find yourself in the position where you say, I'm better, I'm old, I have more experience, which
yeah. In my head, it's like you can be proud of your accomplishments and you've accomplished it at an age, but do not be arrogant
do not be
about
arrogant,
it.
and do not use you can be proud of it, but do not use it as the carrot in everything that you do.
Yeah.
That's not what you're that's not what this whole conversation is about. You can be proud of your skills, your achievements. You can be proud of the fact that you are there while you are young, but you just got there first. You just got there first. You just some people say, at the end of the day, the race will be determined when the story is over, when the race is
Mm,
over. Until it's
mm-hmm.
over, you keep pushing. You never rest on your laurel. You don't park. Yes. So yes, does age make you a great leader? No. Yes. Does wisdom come with age? No. Your skills, your mindset, your actions will always reflect your readiness for leadership.
And no matter how young you are, you can actually lead and succeed if you bring value, if you're confident, and you're dedicated to what you want to do. So I think that's
Yes.
it for today's episode of Business, but the conversation doesn't end here.
Please, 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 let's keep the buzz going. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok. Send your thoughts. Let's talk business.
And remember, you can find Business on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Buzzsprout, and YouTube, so you can listen anytime and anywhere.
Until next time, guys, keep building, keep learning, keep making your mark. This has been Francis.
This has been Penny. See you in the next episode.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Bye, Penny. See you later.